welcome to South First. I am Chetana Belgare. Today, we are in conversation with Ramesh Balasundaram and Beenu Verma, the couple behind Bal Utsav, an NGO empowering children and transforming government school education in India. We will start with Beenu Verma. I know there is a personal story behind setting up of Bal Utsav. If you could both briefly share your respective journeys and how did you decide to get involved in the field of education?
So Bal Utsav, the name or the idea germinated when we both were quoting each other, and that was in the year 2007. So that's where we started talking about getting into the sector and doing something more meaningful and ensuring that we are able to leave an impact towards the end of the day, whenever that time comes. However, when we officially started Bal Utsav in 2009, the whole idea was to ensure that we are able to provide the best possible education to the children, the most deserving ones, and the ones who will carry forward the legacy for anybody and everybody in the world. Now, Bal Utsav itself, the name says, it's about celebration, it's about festivity. And we wanted to take that particular focus to the schools. And certainly, yes, to the government schools in particular. Our journey in particular started with students of migrant laborers. Then it went into with students who were in the tribal areas. And then gradually, yes, all of them had to get into the government schools. So there is so much that needs to be done over there. Yes, there is a classroom. Yes, there is a structure. However, we wanted to bring in the best possible education for the students who are going to the government schools as well, considering the number of government schools which exist in India, right? So that's where the entire process began from. And as you had mentioned, yes, we have touched upon 200 plus schools so far, and the journey for us is just begun.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. Ramesh, if you could, I know that you both have been in corporate training earlier, right? So if you could walk us through this Nammura Shale and Nammellara Shale initiative and what impact you hope it will have on education in Karnataka.
Sure. Thank you. So, Chetana, a couple of things in which we want to get, or the genesis of the Nammura Shale, Nammellara Shale program is two things. The idea is to be able to bring back public participation into public schools, right? So what we've already done is we've created model schools, which it's there for people to see. The proof of concept is there, and the proof of concept at scale is available. But traditionally, what we've been looking at is the ones who are supporting these schools are largely either sitting in, let's say, a Delhi, a Mumbai, or a Bangalore. And from a CSR support standpoint, even from an international standpoint, it's outsiders who are supporting the school. The idea of a public school is very clear. The idea is that locals need to take in charge and run the schools, right? While we've had various elements like using locals, appointing locals, because they are more sensitive to the culture, to the needs, so on and so forth. The big focus was to do two things. One, to ensure that locals own up their own school, and that's where the name comes from, Nammura Shale, Nammellara Shale. So basically, everyone wants to take ownership of the school. For those of them who may be listening to us from outside of Karnataka, this loosely translates to this is our school, and the school belongs to all of us, right? That's what the school campaign typically translates to. The idea is there are smaller businesses, there are industries around, and CSR until now has largely been driven like it's only something that happens in the metros. We want to break away from that and go back to, let's say, there's a hardware park coming up in a certain place, there's a toy park coming in Kopala, there's a textile park coming somewhere else. We want local businesses there to be invested in the public schools there, and that's where the school campaigns come from. Point one. The second thing we want to do is run and showcase public schools in positive light. Right. Usually, if you look at the last 10 articles that you've read about a public school, it's mostly what is not going well. Teachers are not there, child has fallen down, the school has not been painted, no renovation. I mean, it's usually negative stories. And with more than 65% of our children in the country going to a public school, we can't build an entire public school system only on negative stories. So the idea is to showcase positive stories, showcase it with a proof of concept. It's not just an advocacy campaign, but with action on the ground and with local support. That's what the genesis of Nammura Shale and Nammellara Shale comes to.
Okay. So when you talk about model schools, so what do you actually mean? Is it only the infrastructure that is provided, or what exactly happens in this?
Very good question, because the term model school is very open and is left to interpretation in many ways. What we are now looking at is what would you call an ideal school, right? What are the must-haves in a school? Every school has must-haves and good-to-haves, right? Things that you cannot not have in a school become part of must-haves, right? You've already mentioned, Jitna, like infrastructure. Infrastructure is one. And infrastructure has two sides to it. The hard infrastructure, like a classroom, like a toilet, so on and so forth, but also softer elements of infrastructure like lights, fans, computers, books, furniture to sit down, so on and so forth, right? The second element we look at is teacher development, right? Now, India is currently short of about 1.2 million teachers, right? And there are about 1.3 million schools overall. So if you do a simple back of the envelope calculation, we realize that close to every school or every other school in India, it is at least short of one teacher. And more than 1 lakh schools in India are one teacher run schools, right? So if that teacher has a medical issue or if there's any other issue because of which they are having to be plugged out, the learning there almost comes to a standstill, right? So to do work with teachers, one, to infuse more teachers where teachers may be required. And if there are adequate teachers, to work on developmental programs for teachers so that they're able to deliver better is the second piece. The third area of innovation is scholarship, a distinguished alumni program for children coming out of government schools, right? And the fourth area is water, sanitation, and hygiene, something that is usually not associated with schools, but the ability to have drinking water facilities, the ability to have functional toilets, and a very strong menstrual hygiene program for older girls. So when we do all of these in a school, right, infrastructure, teacher development, scholarship, and water, sanitation, and hygiene in a school, that is when we call the school as a model school.
So you have been able to establish such schools in more than 200
Yes, while we do this, the idea is that we have to see some results on the ground. So there are three things we commit to. One, the enrollment in the school needs to go up.
Yeah.
Right. The children leaving the school and going out, that is, attrition needs to come down. And just being in school doesn't mean that they're learning. So we have to improve better learning outcomes. So intervene in the four areas to arrive at these three outcomes is what we do, and that's what we've done in all the hundreds of schools that we worked with. And hopefully next academic year, that's a 24-25 academic year onwards, want to take it into every taluka of Karnataka.
Ms. Benu, if you could tell us, if you could share just any success stories which you remember and you actually feel proud of. I'm sure every school you've been to, there has been, multiple success stories, but if you could just share one story with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, quite a few. Every time we go to a school, there is a new learning for us as well. However, if that learning I can portray it as a success story, I would certainly love to share it with you. The first one itself is when we started Bal Utsav, it was in 2009, and we were working with the children of the migrant laborers at that point in time. So we had around 120 students with us at that point. And the whole idea was to ensure that in less than 2 years of time, that was the syllabus that we were working on, the students should be moved to the government schools in the classes equivalent to their ages. Now, however, the kind of effort which the students and the teachers and the entire team had put in, we were able to take around 70% of the students to the school in less than a year's time. So that was one of the success story for all of us, and it was really motivating. So that was at the initial stages. However, every year, as we keep on progressing and moving forward and working with students, specifically the girl child, they showed so much of interest in coming back to the school, regardless of those, the taboo days which are considered for the girls to not come back there. With the menstrual hygiene program that we run, which is quite a robust program that is being run at the schools, where the sanitary napkins are provided to the girls. There is a vending machine at the school. There is an incinerator to dispose of the soiled napkins. And that is not only for the girls, students who are coming to the school. It is also for the teachers. It is also for the mothers of the girls as well. Any given point in time, they need it while they're at school. So this has encouraged so many girls to continue with their education without taking a single off. And that's how there are three girls I can name right away. One is Mamta from Bangalore Urban School. There is Bhagyashree in one of the Shimoga schools. So these are girls who have been a part of our scholarship programs as well. So they are the meritorious students. It is certainly, these programs have helped them come forward and accomplish their dreams. Yeah.
So what role do you see public-private partnerships playing in improving education in India, and how can more stakeholders get involved in this work? Do you think it's important, first of all?
That it's not a choice we've got at all, right? See, until for far too long, we've been sitting, people have been sitting on the fence and blaming each other, right? The government thinks the corporate has to step up and do more. The corporates think that the government has to be doing more. And in this entire battle of who goes first in this tutu mein mein battle that's been going on, generations are being lost, right? This kind of a partnership is something that should have happened far long ago. But I think it's even more important now that we unite and supplement existing efforts, right? And showcase that programs like this can happen, because when we do a program like this, we are operating at less than 1/8 of what the government is operating the same program at, right? So it is cost efficient. There are more processes that we can showcase, and it's a joint success for all of us to see. Because rather than blaming each other, we are willing to unite, supplement, come together and show that this is possible. And generations are not losing out on their education and livelihood in the meanwhile.
So are there any areas of concern, if you, both of you, if you could, this is my last question, if you could just point out certain lacunas in the education system, which you think, especially in the rural areas, that needs to be looked into on urgent basis, especially after the pandemic, if you can keep pandemic as the background.
So yes, the adoption of technology is still not as good as we would have liked it to be around. While digital highways are being laid out, it's a little more complex of a problem, because power is not available 24/7. So digital education per se cannot happen in its entirety. But we are hoping with digital highways coming in, the power scenario in rural India changing, if the adoption of technology can go up even further. It's been phenomenal. In all of the schools, we realized that about 65-70% of them in 2020 had access to a personal device where they could read. Fairly good, and a lot of water has flown between then and now, clearly. But if adoption can get even bigger and better, nothing like it, because we will be able to ensure that learning happens in a much more robust fashion as things go further.
Okay. Meenu, you have anything to add to this?
Well, see, digitization has certainly helped this particular, gap which has always existed in the rural parts, is that the teacher-student ratio has never been, the same. If there are 100 students, there'll be one teacher for them. So that's where the digital literacy is going to come in, and if there are more gadgets, more people who can use the computers, the phones and laptops, then certainly, yes, we may be able to, bridge the gap over there. However, what we as being in the education space I would personally want to tell the new teachers in the urban parts of the country is you should look at least spending few months or few weeks in these schools and supporting the students, because they are there to learn, and the need is huge over there for good teachers to be there around. Yeah.
I think that's a wonderful suggestion. Most of the teachers should take this. And it was really a pleasure having you both here with us on South First. And your commitment to improving the quality of education in government school is amazing. And I wish you all luck for the next project with the Karnataka government. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.